Hello again, class. In Chapter 10 2A's lesson, we worked on testing whether ordered pairs were actually going to be a solution for a linear equation. Today, we're kind of going to do the same thing, except we're going to find the ordered pairs. And we do that by, first of all, in step 1, choosing our values for x. Then we're going to substitute for x, do the math to solve for y. We can write the solution as an ordered pair, although to be honest with you, after a while, you probably won't need to necessarily write out the ordered pair. And then in step 4, we are going to graph the ordered pair, and we are going to draw the line, kind of like connect the dots. Now here's the one thing. If you find that your points don't line up in a straight line, it means you need to go back and redo the math. Now let me repeat that. If the little dots do not line up in a straight line, you must go back and check your math. All of these equations will be a straight line. We do have a definition here of a linear equation, which simply means an equation for which the graph of all the solutions will end up being a line, which again means that every time you find an ordered pair, by picking the x and doing the math, you should get a point that is on the line. And when you are finished, all the little dots should line up in a straight line. And for the third time, if your little points do not line up in a straight line, you must go back and redo the math. Let's look at our first example. On your paper, your graph for this x and y over here on the left is so dark that your x and your y don't really show up. So maybe you better put an x and a y above it. Because I'm sorry, for some reason the copier just really copied it dark. Our linear equation here is y equals x minus 4. Now I'm going to remind you too that subtraction means to add the opposite. And sometimes it's going to be easier to think of this as y equals x plus a negative 4. Or you can do the old, put the line through the negatives to the subtraction sign and then add a negative if that helps you. But it might also help you to rewrite that equation. I usually tell students a great place to start is where x is 0. That way you will always get what we call the y-intercept. And in 8th grade in particular, we're going to be using that y-intercept. If you recall, back when we did functions in chapter 9, knowing what x equaled 0 was really, really helpful. So that's always where I tell students to start. We substitute. 0 plus negative 4 is going to be negative 4. That means one of our ordered pairs is 0, negative 4. After that, you really get to pick points wherever you want. Just remember, you have to watch out that your answers are always going to be between 8 and negative 8. So if you decide you want to do x equals 10, that's not going to make a lot of sense here because you don't even have 10 or negative 10 on the grid. So you're going to have to keep your numbers a little small. If we had a bigger 4-quadrant grid, we could use bigger numbers. I chose a 1 for my next number for x. Now I substitute. 1 plus negative 4 is going to be negative 3. So that means one of my points is going to be 1, negative 3. I next chose 4 for x. And I substituted for x. 4 plus negative 4 is 0. So my ordered pair is going to be 4, 0. Now, it's usually a good idea to pick some negative points as x as well. I have a tendency to kind of stay with the negatives of what I've already chosen. You don't have to, but I usually do. So I'm going to pick a -1. -1 plus -4 is -5. So one of my points is going to be -1, -5. And then I chose the -4. -4 plus -4 is -8, and I am at the outer limit of my quadrant grid. So another ordered pair would be -4, -8. Now there's an extra box here. If you actually want to try another point, you certainly may. I would suggest that you pick your value somewhere between 1 and 4 for your x. Now we're supposed to graph them. So 0, -4 is down here. 1, -3. 4, 0 is right on the x-axis. Then -1, -5 is a quadrant 3 point. And -4, -8 is also a quadrant 3 point. And if you take your ruler and connect those points, you should be able to make a straight line. Probably better than mine because I actually can't use a ruler. Now you'll notice too that I go all the way through my grid. I don't make an itty-bitty line in the center of my grid. I go all the way through the 4 quadrants or the 3 quadrants that the line goes through. Now if you'll notice, this line, every point was on that line. Now if it helps you, go ahead and graph the points in pencil. And that way, if you need to make a change, you can do so. But then, please graph your line using a colored ink pen. It's very helpful to see what you're doing. Let's look at example 2. This time I have the equation y equals x minus 2. Now again, subtraction means to add the opposite. And again, your x and y don't show up. I'm sorry. So let's try it. Now where did I say to start? With 0. 0 plus -2 is -2. So my point is going to be 0, -2. Then I decided to try a 2. 2 plus -2 is going to be 0. So my ordered pair will be 2, 0. I chose a 4 again. 4 plus -2 is 2. So one of my ordered pairs will be 4, 2. Now I chose to use the negative of those. So I chose a -2. -2 plus -2 is -4. I have a point of -2, -4. I then picked -4. -4 plus -2 is -6. So my last ordered pair is going to be -4, -6. I now need to graph the points. 0, -2 is on the y-axis. We call that the y-intercept because that's where it crosses the y-axis. I then have 2, 0, which is on the x-axis. And believe it or not, that's what we call the x-intercept because it crosses the x-axis. 4, 2 will be up here in quadrant 1. -2, -4 will be in quadrant 3. And -4, -6 will also be in quadrant 3. And this line will pass through quadrants 3, 4, and 1. Now again, you can use your ruler. We will connect the points. And again, make sure you go through the whole quadrant. Whoops, I'm a little off there. And there we have our solution for x minus 2. Here we have y equals -2x. Again, it's too dark on your paper. This is x, this is y. And this time I'm not going to write the ordered pairs, but I am going to choose to use 0, 2, 3, -2, and -3. Now, -2x means I'm taking a -2 times whatever x will equal. X is going to be 0. -2 times 0 is 0. This time x is 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. The next time my x is a 3. Negative 2 times 3 is negative 6. Now, here's where I got to be careful and go back to my integer rules all the way back to chapter 2. Because this time I'm taking negative 2 times negative 2, which will be a positive 4. And then I'm going to take negative 2 times negative 3, so my answer will be 6. Graph those points. 0, 0. 2, negative 4 will be down here in quadrant 4. And 3, negative 6 will also be in quadrant 4. Negative 2, 4, got to be careful. Now I'm in quadrant 2. And negative 3, 6 will also be a quadrant 2 line. And this one I'm going to have a harder time drawing, so I'm going to have to put in a couple of extra points in order to help me graph it. There we go. And again, you'll note I have gone all the way through my quadrant grid. Okay, here's your chance, your opportunity. I'm going to hit pause. You're going to do the work. I would suggest using the points 0, 3, 5, negative 3, and negative 5 for your x. Let's see how you did. Remember that what this equation means is y equals negative 1 times whatever value you put in for x, which is why if I use x is 3, I will get a negative 3 for y, and then I graphed. If you need to, hit stop or hit pause, redo the problem, and try it again. That concludes lesson 10-2B on graphing linear equations. We'll catch you next time.